Alright guys, so time is now for a showdown between the Skaven, who are going to be led by Lord Skrolk, and the Tomb Kings, who are going to be led by Arkin the Black, and if memory serves, I think he's going to be on horseback, so unfortunately we do not get the evil cackling necromancer chariot. So as far as my build goes, on the back line, I do have two Warp Lightning cannons, which are definitely pretty good against the Tomb Kings. I mean, there's so many big targets, and these things are heavy armor piercing, they have bonus first large, so if you're facing off against Ushopti, Tomb Scorpions, Kemrian War Sphinxes, Ushopti Great Bows, Bone Giants, Bone Giants is the one that's a little bit dicey because the Bone Giants can actually return the fire. And my opponent, King of the Dead, actually brought the double Bone Giant. So they have 350 range compared to my 400 something, 430. So I do have a small advantage in that respect. But once they do close the distance, it can get a little bit spooky. On top of that, the Tomb Kings do have the ability to shut down the Warp Lightning cannons using Carrion and also just kind of a running by with Arkin the Black, for example, dropping some skeletons. Those are all pretty good tactics for getting down the Warp Lightning cannon. But nonetheless, I think it's a pretty good choice against the Tomb Kings. A lot of big juicy constructs, and we're going to see how it goes. To protect those bad boys, I do have two Clan Rats with spears, just standard rank and file. They're going to be able to fend off Carrion, and if there's Nehekar Horsemen, Skeleton Horsemen, these bad boys can put up a decent fight with their bonus first large against the horsemen. On top of that, we do have two groups of the Night Runners with slings, and the reason I bring these against the Tomb Kings is simply to deal with Carrion. So like I said, a lot of Tomb Kings players will bring Carrion, they'll swarm on top of your artillery pieces or get on other high value targets and just kind of muck you down. So the Night Runners with slings have pretty good range at 140, so they can actually, pick those birds out of the sky with their pebbles, and on top of that, through like sheer volume of fire, sometimes they can actually do some decent damage against like Bone Giants, or if there's some Tomb Guards who have their backs turned to the Night Runners, they actually don't get the silver shields if they're hit in the back, so you can get some pretty good damage, because most of the Tomb Kings roster in general is pretty lightly armored with the exception of the constructs. So two Night Runners there. In the front line, it's going to be all Clan Rats. So we have four Clan Rats kind of stretching across the sunset here, the horizon, and they're just going to be taking the brunt of the beating and just kind of holding things in place. And just like the Dawi, I like to have a couple layers with this Skaven. So I have four Clan Rats in the front. Behind them, I have a couple Skaven slaves to just muck things up even further. And just to make sure that I have, ideal numbers, I do have Lord Skrolk. So Skrolk is by far the most competitive choice. Rod of Corruption, Libra Bubonicus, both extremely powerful items. So he's going to be able to summon Plague Monks and Clan Rats and really buffer the areas that I need help in. And I don't think any Skaven versus Tomb King build would be complete without a couple groups of Rat Ogres. So the Rat Ogre is pretty much a must. They're one of the few high mass units with Skaven that have great armor piercing. They can pin down Tomb Scorpions, they can pin down the big constructs. And yeah, they're going to take damage and they don't have the best leadership themselves, but I think they're just so damn good in this matchup. So we have two Rat Ogres in total. And they're going to be pretty good against like the Chariots and the Horsemen and some of these other big threats that King of the Dead does have. So Skrolk is going to be joined by two Assassins as well, which I think is really good. I mean, Skaven Assassins are just beastly, stacking trophy heads on leadership, and even against like bigger targets. These guys are maneuverable. They have some solid abilities with the Concealment Bomb. I don't think I brought Slippery just to save money, but yeah, Skaven Assassins are very, very good. And if they have to fight against like Tomb Guard and infantry and things like that, they can do okay. I mean, they have 60 melee attack, 375 weapon strength. These bad boys get some work done. Now, on the flanks, one of my favorite units on the entire Skaven roster is going to be the Clan ESHIN. Well, I guess technically it doesn't matter. You guys get what I'm saying. In lore, they're Clan ESHIN, but we have the Death Runners. So Death Runners are very, very good. They can get around the back. A lot of people don't expect them. And if they go through Shopti Great Bows, if they go with Bone Giants, if they have any sort of missile play like the Skeleton Archers, the Death Runners are going to be an absolute terror. And being able to sunder 50% off the armor of like a construct, like a Tomb Scorpion with 100 armor, puts it down to 50, opens up your Pebble play. I mean, Death Runners are just such a good unit. I definitely think they're going to be seen quite a bit in the metagame. And yeah, we just have two Death Runners, one here and one on the far side. And for King of the Dead, he's got a very spooky army. He has the double Bone Giant, so he was probably expecting that I was going to bring artillery, so we are going to have a bit of a duel. The Bone Giants are going to be scooting forward, and they're going to take at least probably two volleys before they themselves get in range of my Warp Lightning cannons, but I'm hoping that the Warp Lightning cannons can get some pretty good DPS on those guys. For his front line, it's going to be Tomb Guard. Tomb Guard will absolutely spank all of my Skaven infantry, so it's going to have to be a real knockdown, drag-out fight versus Tomb Guard, using Skrolk and Pestilent Breath, and just using the summons and the Plague Monks to really kind of deal with those guys. Two Chariots as well, so the Rat Ogres are going to have their hands full. 74 speed on those guys compared to the 60 of the Rat Ogre, so if King of the Dead is really on top of his micro with the Chariots, I'm not going to be able to catch him very easily. It's definitely going to be very frustrating. And normally I would like to shoot these guys with my Warp Lightning cannons, but the problem being is that he has these two Bone Giants, so I'm going to have to shoot the Bone Giants. Very, very spooky stuff. He's got Spirit Leech and the Purple Sun to drop some fat Vortex action on my Skaven Blobs. He's got some Archers, Spears on the flanks, and two groups of Nehekar Horsemen, which are great. They can chase down Skaven Skirmishers, they have shields, they have good combat stats, enough to deal with like Night Runners and Gut Runners and things like that. And honestly, with some good charges, they can really punish Clan Rats as well. So let's get the show on the road, guys. So the Warp Lightning cannons are going to be going downtown, getting some fat shots into the Bone Giant. It looks like almost all of the bolts there hit the Bone Giant, but these guys are almost in range. They're getting closer and closer, and unfortunately I can't kite back with my Warp Lightning cannons. Like turning them around takes like a year. So just to create a little bit of buffer between the Bone Giants and just kind of pressure them and maybe force them back, I decided to advance my entire army. Normally when you have the cannons, you would want to sit back and just kind of reap the benefit of it, but you can see one of my Warp Lightning cannons does take a direct shot, but it does not kill the artillery piece quite yet. But it looks like King of the Dead is going to be coming in against my Clan Rats here with some of these Nehekar Horsemen, and they're going to be taking a beating. So I do countercharge, but the poor Rat Boys just get absolutely punted. But that's to be expected. Skaven have a lot of chaff. Clan Rats are quite a cheap unit, but very good cycle charging coming in. Over here, the same thing is happening. The Chariots are coming in, and I had to see where he was going with everything before I committed the Rat Ogres. So the Slingers will be throwing some Pebble Fire at the Skeleton Chariots. Rat Ogres have been sent in both directions to kind of try and chase those guys down, and the Assassins as well as Skrull. But a little bit sloppy here. I overload on this position because I thought he was going to cycle charge back out, but he actually gets pretty much a free charge in the front line with the Clan Rats, and these poor Skaven boys are not going to be having the best of times. Now let's look at the big duel. The Bone Giant is actually getting shreked pretty bad by the Warp Lightning Cannons. I've lost one cannon here. Leadership is a little bit low, but so far the trade is going pretty well. The Rat Ogres are just in position to kind of screen out these Chariots and make sure he doesn't get any freebies over here. But the Warp Lightning Cannons really paying their dues. But man, these Chariots just rushing back and forth using their mass, and the Rat Ogres, of course, can't keep up. So I move forward the Clan Rats with Spears, and I think I brace them at the last second, so they're going to be braced, and they do have that charge defense, so I'm able to kind of stop up the Chariots, which is huge. So now the Rat Ogres are going to be able to catch these guys. The Bone Giant still, though, just wasting me a little bit, just getting that huge value on the Warp Lightning Cannons, but finally the Rat Ogres do pile in here, and they're going to be doing some heavy lifting. On the far side, the Rat Ogres are going to be chasing these Chariots. It looks like he's going to be going for a side charge, so I try and reposition the Clan Rats, but unfortunately they're probably going to be caught in transition, and they will not be braced. So a lot of hot Chariot action going on back here. This one Warp Lightning Cannon is still online. They're actually shaken, so they could come back. And over here we do have a pretty good catch. So I was able to kind of corral these Nehekar Horsemen. I got my Assassins. I got Skrulkin here, so these Assassins are going to be prison shanking a lot of these Nehekar Horsemen, which is great. So getting rid of the mobility slowly, but also taking quite a bit of damage. Now my Death Runners in the back have used their concealment bombs. One of them I think still has it, but I'm just kind of waiting to see for an opportunity to strike. And I actually don't mind if the Nehekar Horsemen come out and fight Death Runners. Death Runners will beat the brakes off them. They have pretty good combat stats and will nullify their armor, which, I mean, 50 armor still matters. So this one Warp Lightning Cannon is still shooting. The other one I think is back online now, but the one only has one piece left. And this Bone Giant isn't quite dead, so this was a little bit stressful. I was like, oh man, he's actually getting the jump on me here. It looks like my Warp Lightning Cannon's definitely a little bit beat up. I did lose one cannon here from that Bone Giant. It looks like it's a 1-to-1. And in the back, I finally dealt with the Chariot, so the Rat Ogres are going to be chasing these guys down and hopefully getting some juicy kills. So at this point, I'm like, all right, let's do some Mission Impossible Rats. So the Assassins are going to be moving forward. Skrulk is going to be going as well, and I do use the Libra Bubonicus, which is going to do huge damage against this Bone Giant. It's probably not going to kill him. I mean, Bone Giants have like 9,000 HP, so their pool is pretty substantial, but at the very least, it's going to butter him up. It's going to probably make him crumble, and from there, the Assassins can kind of run in and get him. In the back, the Death Runner's doing a little bit of skirmishing, and I have, caught the attention of Skeleton Warriors and Ark in the Black, but I'm just kind of pulling back and re-engaging, just trying to harass and buy time for the rest of my Skaven force to get in here and do their job. So the Assassin has gotten on the Bone Giant. Lord Skrulk is going to be running through these guys and also summoning some rats in the back line. So the Assassin definitely going to be very proud telling his fellow Ratlings about that one. He does take out a Bone Giant. And from there, we're going to switch our remaining cannons onto the other Bone Giant. Our Assassins are going to be moving in, and we're going to try and take down this Bone Giant here. So in the back, let's look. Warp Lightning Cannons. I mean, the Bone Giants did some pretty good work. I have one cannon left here. I have one left here, so only two pieces still firing. Balance of power is pretty much dead even. But I do have the two Assassins on the Bone Giant, and Skrulk is going to be coming in as well. So he's going to be hopefully getting some of that sweet, sweet damage with his big Plague Flail there. But the Libra Mortis has been popped. Skrulk does do magic damage, however, so he's going to be ignoring that effect. And Ark in the Black does come in, and it looks like he's going to be dropping a Spirit Leech on the Assassin there, and also is just going to be helping out. Rod of Corruption going down, though. Very, very nice hit. It does hit the Tomb Guard as well as these King Mikesha Scorpion Legion troops here in the back. But the Death Runners in the back doing some work. Some of the Skaven slaves are coming up and around the flanks. I'm just pulling in and out, in and out. And the Death Runners are also able to kind of chew down these Nehekar Horsemen. So that's going pretty well, but man, it's getting pretty crazy in the back. His Chariot play is so solid. King of the Dead just doing beautiful work. Here he's just going to be running over the remnants of my Warp Lightning Cannons, and I was pretty much like, yeah, they're done for. Let's just abandon them and pull the troops forward. Rat Ogres, I'm trying to pursue these guys, but my opponent getting those really good angles and just able to just juke me, and the Rat Ogres a little bit too slow, having a 15 or 16 less speed. It's definitely a bit of a deficit here. But what's going really well about this battle is the Assassins and Skrulk Daddy are able to sit on the Bone Giant. Whenever the Tomb Kings do send in reinforcements, Skrulk has a lot of summons with the but the Vermintide plus the Pestilent Rebirth. I'm able to summon a ton of rats. So for example here, the King Mikesha Scorpion Legion was about to kind of save him, but I do summon some of the Rat Boys here. So the Plague Monks are going to come in, and they do very well against lightly armored targets. Looks like Ark in the Black's going to be coming in as well, maybe dropping a Spirit Leech or some other effects, but I'm just trying to push through with the Assassins, but it looks like he is using the Spirit Leech to focus down the Assassins, while Skrulk Daddy's going to be trying to advance. But this Bone Giant is in huge trouble. I mean, it is disintegrating. It is taking a huge beating from these Assassins. Their DPS output's pretty steady, and I mean, 60 melee defense against a very low, I think the melee defense of Bone Giant is in the 20s, so the Assassins are able to do a great job. So there we finally pull a little bit ahead in the Bounce of Power, but it looks like there's going to be a Purple Sun going down, which does tear up my poor Rat Boys, but thankfully they're just summons, as well as a couple groups of Clan Rats, so it's not going to be terribly devastating. Now in the back, the Rat Ogres have been able to kind of crowd the Chariot, so it's really been a game of cat and mouse here. He's going to be running through my last Warp Lightning Cannon. But man, these skeleton chariots are so close to dying. They have about 1500 HP. The rat ogres, of course, with their good mass, are able to kind of pin them in and get some really good blows. But yeah, King of the Dead's been doing a beautiful job. I do have some rats over here who just rallied. I'm going to be moving them back to the battlefield, and the Ushopti summon has been dropped. So Lord Skrulk is going to be fighting here with his 2 assassins, but the King Yakeshin Scorpion Legion, I think, is still nearby. Maybe they're over here, or maybe they're back over here. I'm not sure where they went, but anyways, they do have that poison wherever they are. But I do summon some clan rats, and I think one of the more efficient ways to use Skrulk is as a summoner, because Skaven forces do buckle very quickly, so being able to kind of pull in reinforcements is extremely valuable. But King of the Dead just have these archers, and I made a big mistake. I mean, one of the bigger issues, I really need to shut down these archers throughout the game, but these guys keep coming back online. They're shooting out a lot of my summons, but finally, I get my Pebble Boys in here. The Night Runners are going to be throwing into these Ushopti. Rod of Corruption going down, doing a ton of damage against skeletons, and the Death Runners are now able to come in for the rear charge. So even if it's just like a harass unit, these guys are so solid. The concealment bombs is helpful, and even if they don't have constructs, these bad boys I think have speed in the 50s. They're kind of like a mini Skaven cav unit of sorts. But my one assassin does get taken out, so the Ark and the Black Spirit Leeches and some of the Ushopti and the Spears were able to poke him down. But Skrulk and the other assassin are in okay shape. Balance of power definitely in my favor, I would say. Pretty substantially. But again, not to the point where he can't come back. Ark and the Black, of course, has skeleton summons, and the Skaven are a low leadership faction. And all of the Tomb King's units do cause fear. You can see there's some issues with my slaves over here, but just piling in, just war of attrition. Clan rats coming back in, the Pebbles are coming in, still trying to chase down these damn chariots who probably have so many kills. 57 here, Ark and the Black has 115. And in this pit fight here, you can see the Death Runners doing pretty good. As far as kills, they got 50. Over here, the Rat Ogres are finally able to pile in. It looks like King of the Dead is going to be getting a nice charge with his chariots into my Death Runners. And the Rat Ogres, these guys have been huffing and puffing this entire game, just trying to catch these guys. A little bit sloppy, perhaps, but I was taking angles of pursuit, trying to head them off. But King was able to kind of get past me every single time, which was definitely a little bit spooky there. So the Skeleton Chariot going to be going down here. Finally, it looks like it's going to be crumbling. 2 models, so the leadership is relatively negative. And the Blob here is doing well. Lord Skrulk is now going to be the target of the Spirit Leeches, and he's probably going to be getting relatively worn down here by Ark of the Black. I mean, the Skaven leadership is definitely not the best, so if I do get very low, it could be a little bit scary. Some of these Tomb Guard are kind of chasing about, but like I said in the beginning of the game, if you do throw pebbles into the back of Tomb Guard, their silver shields are not going to help them. You know, it's like that with any sort of mechanic. If a shielded unit is shot in the back, the shields aren't going to be taking effect here. So the Rat Ogres do come in, and they're able to trigger the Curse of Ark in the Black. Unfortunately, it does hit the Night Runners and does a little bit of damage. And from here, I pile in with the Rat Ogres, trying to hold back these Tomb Guard, hoping that the Pebbles in the back will be able to kind of saturate these guys and drag them down. The other Tomb Guard are just kind of beating down Clan Rats, and whenever I get the chance, though, if the Tomb Guard get close, I try and run away and just kind of pull them away from the main battle. I think that's definitely one of the more efficient ways to play with Skaven infantry. So the Clan Rats are going to be jumping in here to the Tomb Guard. The other Skaven slaves are going to be getting in the back, and they're also taking Pebbles here, which is quite good. Ark in the Black, though, with another very powerful summon. I mean, that item of his is so damn good. He's able to kind of pull down my entire force, and this is really the powerhouse, right? We have the Death Runners here, and oh no, is that going to be a Purple Sun? I hope not. That's going to be devastating. I think it is going to be a Purple Sun, I'm not sure. But Ark in the Black's been using a ton of Spirit Leeches, so I actually think that was just the effect of the Rod of Corruption, which I mistook for the Purple Sun there. But if we look here, these Tomb Guard are just doing such a good job against my troops. I mean, all I have in terms of infantry are Clan Rats, and Tomb Guards hit pretty hard. They have 42 weapon strength, if memory serves, and they're able to actually hit even hard against Rat Ogres. You can see I did have some Ogres fighting these guys, and the Tomb Guard were able to kind of beat them back, so wasn't able to get the job done there. But the Balance Power getting, creeping ever so slowly in my favor, getting pretty close to army losses for the Tomb Kings here. Rat Ogres are going to be jumping in, just clubbing some of these bony boys, and you can see they do really good damage on their charge. Rat Ogres do have a charge bonus, I think, of 50 or so, which is quite powerful. Skrulk coming in, Assassin coming in, and Skrulk, of course, does have the Contaminate, which is quite good against the Undead. So right here, Ark in the Black does attempt to go in for Skrulk and butter that bread, but the Rat Ogres and the Trophy Heads and all the different effects are going to be quite helpful. Staff of Nagash has gone down, so we might be able to get another Skeleton Summon, but from here we should be able to head him off, and I think that's going to be army losses. So well played to my opponent, King of the Dead. It was definitely a very fun game, and it really came down to the grand duel between the Bone Giants and the Warp Lightning Cannons, but I mean, I think had Skrulk and the Assassins not come in and gotten that really good angle and then used these summons to fend off the defending units. So we came in with the Assassins and Skrulk. We attacked the Bone Giant. When the other units reacted, we summoned rats to kind of block their path, and from there, Skrulk and the Assassins were able to just do great work. Because Skrulk contaminates the Bone Giants, which lowers their leadership, makes them crumble faster, and it kind of opened up the opportunity for our Warp Lightning Cannons, which were, losing that duel. We only had like 1 or 2 left there at the end, and the Bone Giants, the other one, was still like full health, right? So if we had just sat back and traded shot for shot, our Warp Lightning Cannons would have 100% lost that fight. So the fact that we moved up with Skrulk, got those summons, I think was pretty clutch and allowed us to kind of carry that game. So very well played to my opponent, King of the Dead. It was a classic duel between the Bone Giants and the Warp Lightning Cannons, and the Rat Boys were just barely able to pull that out. Clan Rats in the front line did their job, but I really love the Death Runners. Even though there was no great targets, they came in, they occupy your opponent's attention, and even if they send, Nehekara Horseman, or any sort of those other units. I mean, the Chariots would have just run them over pretty badly, but the Chariots were obviously just destroying my back line, just causing so many problems amongst my Slingers and my Warp Lightning Cannons and my Spears and Clan Rats. He did a really good job with those Chariots. Those things were just super beastly. But the Nekar Horsemen were actually... we were able to kill them with the Death Runners, which was quite nice. But I really think Skrulk, the Assassins, Warp Lightning Cannons did a great job. Death Runners and Rat Ogres huffed and puffed, but unfortunately they could not catch those guys. So that was a little bit painful. So for King's Army, yeah, the Bone Giants, it's going pretty all in, right? Just trying to take out the Warp Lightning Cannons. But, you know, for example, if I hadn't brought Warp Lightning Cannons and I had gone wider, the Bone Giants wouldn't have had too many good targets. Granted, they can still, you know, do a lot of work against Rat Ogres. And even if you're just facing off against a Skaven with a Bone Giant, let's say there's not too many good targets, it's still a huge terror-causing monster that can move in and just do a ton of damage. So I like the Bone Giant pick against Skaven. It's definitely quite a bit of fun. So very well played to my opponent, King of the Dead. And there will be a link to his Twitch channel. He does stream somewhat regularly. I've seen a couple of the streams over there. So make sure to check him out. And hopefully you guys enjoy the Skaven versus Tomb King showdown. Have an excellent night, guys, and take care.